Succession is a drama series that follows the Roy family, the owners of Waystar Royco, a massive global media and entertainment conglomerate. At face value, the series is about a powerful family business and who will replace the company's owner. On a deeper level, the show is really about broken children desperately craving their father's approval. The show explores themes of power, wealth, corporate politics, and family dynamics as the patriarch Logan Roy, a ruthless and controlling figure, faces declining health and the question of who will succeed him as the leader of the company. His 4 children, Kendall, Roman, Shiv, and to a lesser extent Connor, compete and backstab for control, each trying to prove themselves worthy of taking over the company. Logan is a volatile and brutish man, a narcissist whose business strategy involves steamrolling others into submission. His closest circle are scared of him and desperate to be in his good books. When it comes to his family, Logan is highly manipulative and berating, often pitting his children against each other and presenting the idea that the one who succeeds him, an impossible concept that he dangles in front of each of Kendall, Roman and Shiv, is the one who will win the approval of their father that they so desperately crave. Though they have many faults of their own, such as selfishness and a spoiled upbringing, the Roy children are treated appallingly by their father. He has an oxymoronic kind of parenting style, whereby he will defend his children and propel them forward in life, knowing their deep-rooted insecurities and using these to motivate them. You could argue, no one knows the Roy children better than their father. But at the same time that he puts them up, he hammers them back down, leading each at different times to believe they are his successor, telling Kendall this when he was 7. He gets his children on his side, but in doing so makes them destroy what they love, such as getting Kendall to gut Walter or telling Roman to fire Jerry. And for the smallest of failings, he will toss one child aside for another. It was he who used his powers to stop Kendall being legally involved in the death of the waiter. But he does so for his own nefarious reasons, essentially blackmailing his son into submission. And on top of this, twisting the knife at every opportunity when he knows the incident is something Kendall is deeply troubled by. He also seems to treat his in-laws better than his own children, which must sting them further. Logan is in some ways the protagonist, but also the clear antagonist of the show, his shadow looming over his children and the series even when he isn't in it. For his part in overseeing a business which shapes America's opinion, the world's opinion even, for the worse, the idea is toyed that he is an even worse individual than the likes of Hitler by his brother Ewan, the more moral and socially conscious of the 2 Roy brothers. Logan's final act, shunning Connor's wedding in favour of closing a business deal with Mattson, is indicative of his nature, putting business first, family feelings be damned. But his subsequent death in the toilet of an aeroplane surrounded by corporate vultures whose next steps are thinking about their own futures is an ending he could have avoided had he gone to the wedding, where he would have died surrounded by his family, people who love him. Though he is clearly villainous, there are of course commendable traits of Logan Roy, and in addition to this, a glimpse into a past that was nowhere near as rosy as the upbringing he gave to his children. The backstory of Logan Roy is never quite spelled out for us in the show. It's not a topic the man himself wants to talk about, and instead we are given breadcrumbs to come to a conclusion that he didn't have the easiest of lives growing up. One of the most direct references to Logan's past are in the episode Austerlitz, after Kendall fails in his vote of no confidence against Logan and is ousted from the company. For optic reasons, Logan gathers his family for a pseudo-therapy session, essentially hoodwinking them into the idea that they can talk about their family problems when all he really cares about is repairing his public image. After a day of bickering and fighting with nobody closer to closure, the episode ends with Logan swimming in a pool. He gets out of the pool with the music swelling, and we see what looks like a whole bunch of scratch marks across his back, something that's never brought up again. Some might come away from this thinking Marcia might be some kind of dominatrix, that Logan is still able to bring game at his age. Others might feel Logan, technically a Catholic, repents for his sins and regularly whips himself. But it's far more likely that these marks are an allusion to an abusive childhood. Really, this scene is the crescendo of an episode that was pretty much building to this moment. The entire premise is that we are going to be seeing a Roy family therapy. Finally, we'll see why things are the way they are. But during the therapy, Logan is distant, abrasive, even saying things like, "I can't get into that," and straight up coming out with pseudo apologies to his children. We learn that this is all essentially PR for him and the company, which worsens our opinion of him even further. When Kendall arrives at the home, he speaks bad to his father, and Logan replies, "If I had spoken to my uncle that way," before Kendall mocks him, saying, "What would evil Uncle Noah do?" Perhaps this was a rare case of Logan opening up, but the subsequent mocking caused him to shut down. In any case, the idea is put to us very briefly there. And even the whole thing about the scars on the back is foreshadowed in the beginning of the episode when Logan is hit with a bag of piss. And when he cleans himself, he is adamant that only the closest guard is allowed in the bathroom with him, seeing him change his shirt. The kids also mention that Logan doesn't swim, but we clearly see that he does, which on a basic level tells us that there is more to Logan than we and the children know. There is more to him than meets the eye, and on another level suggests that Logan does not want his children to see the marks. And after all of this negative attention on Logan in this episode, we see that final scene which, if not flipping our opinion on its head, at least posits the question that maybe we need to allow for more nuance for Logan as a human. In an interview, Brian Cox, who plays Logan, confirmed that the marks were from abuse he suffered from his uncle. Of course, it's unlikely that such marks would look like they do decades later, but we can chalk this up to creative license from the showrunners to make a point, and also to the severity of the beatings. Logan's bleak childhood started with him growing up amid World War II, with Ewan telling a terrifying story at Logan's funeral about the two brothers having to hide for days from a German U-boat for 3 nights when they were very young, where speaking or even coughing would get their ship destroyed. The boys grew up in poverty, and their mother sent them to live with their uncle and aunt in Canada, making a treacherous journey, and after all this, his life doesn't get much better. He was blamed for the death of his sister at the hands of polio, blame which he internalized after he detested his stay at boarding school and came back home from school with illness. It's not known whether the beatings Logan faced were because of this, or whether he just happened to be beat by his uncle in general. What we do know is that Logan still blames himself for his sister's death, something which Ewan, in spite of the two brothers' differences, insists was not Logan's fault. Perhaps Logan internalized the idea that he needs to be strong and hard to plow through adversary, that weakness causes pain and suffering as it did to his sister, so he decides to strive in life, hide his vulnerabilities, that the one time he was weak in life it killed his sister. But in his change he becomes more self-centered and bitter. There are many great lines about Logan in the show, but one that sticks out is from Ewan during Logan's eulogy when he says, "I don't know when, but sometime he decided not to try anymore, and it was a terrible shame." For sure, Logan's childhood poverty and trauma plays a part in why he now is a greedy hard man. It might not be a key to Logan's personality, but it's certainly a piece of the puzzle. He feels his children are spoilt and do not appreciate what they have been given in life. In fact, Kendall goes as far as to say that Logan is jealous of the life he has given his children, a comment which clearly gets to Logan. Perhaps there is some truth to this, in that Logan has given the kind of upbringing to his children that he wishes he had, and he berates them for not doing more with it, thinking that though he's made mistakes, he is a good father because he doesn't hurt them the way he was hurt, not realizing that his verbal and mental abuse towards them carries its own scars, even if they are not quite as apparent as backmarks. Regarding the cruise scandal, Logan says that the people his age were being lads around the town while he was not. In fact, he was too self-conscious to even take his shirt off in front of his first wife. But of course, this scene puts that into a different context. Adding to this, it's also worth mentioning that there is an implication that Logan used to beat Roman as a child. It's interesting that Roman then seems to have the most amount of affinity for his father out of the children. And when he is having his face crushed by Kendall in the final episode, he doesn't fight back. a learned helplessness that may have come from his own physical trauma at the hands of his father, and older brothers even, as he seems adamant that he was locked in a cage by a brother, but he can't remember which, and adding to this, he is told that he actually enjoyed it. Anyway, that is a topic for another day, but the point is that this generational abuse and trauma that stems from Logan's upbringing has shaped him as a person and as a father. He is blamed for Rose's death, and he blames Kendall for the waiter's death, rubs it in, uses it to his advantage. He suffered significantly as a child, which doesn't necessarily excuse his cruelty as an adult, but it does give him humanity. In his old age, he sees his kids as not serious people, his last words to them, who are spoiled and have so much more than what he had, like when he tests them, asking them what the price of a gallon of milk is, or extols the virtues of a homeless man who's always grinding. From their perspective, he's a monster, but from his, they are children who never grew up, never got a taste of the real world which he came from. Kendall, the only one of the children who actually has kids of his own, has his own parenting issues, mainly being the absent father, and there was that one time he accidentally shouted at his son. Like Logan, he comes out with rubbish like everything he does is for his children. But like Logan, he will of course feel like he did a better job than what he was given as a child. And the cycle continues. When Logan hits Roman in a rage, Logan later gaslights Roman, saying, "I don't do that kind of thing," even questioning whether he made contact. It's like he has to delude himself into thinking he hasn't become the monster that he had to grow up with, not accepting that he has become an abuser, at best dismissing it as losing his temper here and there. He also hits Kendall's kid in the face with a can of cranberry sauce. There are other examples that suggest Logan was physically abusive to his kids, but the point is made. So what do you make of Logan's marks and the implication of this for Logan's past? Let me know in the comment section below. Subscribe to the channel. Let me know if you'd like to see more Succession videos, and thanks for watching.